Welcome, aspiring aviators. I am absolutely thrilled to be your ground instructor for this explainer today. We're going to be mapping out the strict FAA regulations that will guide your journey from a student straight through to becoming a fully certified pilot. Listen, if you truly want to master the mechanics of flying, and I mean not just the yoke and pedals, but the actual legal and operational framework of the skies, well, you are exactly in the right place. Today, we're breaking down the certificates, the documents, and the precise legal requirements that actually empower you to take to the air safely. So let's jump right in.
We've got a super clear flight plan for today. We'll be covering earning your pilot certificates, aviation medical certificates, recent flight experience, and finally, mastering the pilot logbook.
All right, Section 1, earning your wings. Let's get pilot certificates explained. So our very first milestone is understanding the primary pilot certificates, mainly the recreational and private tiers. Now, both of these actually require you to be at least 17 years old, highly proficient in English, and you've got to pass some pretty rigorous knowledge and flight tests. But the scope of what you can do differs a lot. A recreational certificate requires a minimum of 30 flight hours. That includes 15 hours of dual instruction, meaning flying with a certified instructor, and 3 hours of solo flight. The private pilot certificate, on the other hand, demands significantly more experience, but it unlocks this vast, amazing cross-country freedom.
To actually earn that private pilot certificate, the FAA mandates a minimum of 40 total flight hours. But it's not just any random 40 hours, right? It's meticulously divided. You need 20 hours of dual instruction, which has to include 3 hours of cross-country, 3 hours of night flying, complete with a 100 nautical mile flight, and 3 hours of basic attitude instrument training, which is just flying solely by reference to your dashboard. Then, you need 10 hours of solo flight. That includes 5 hours of solo cross-country and very specific takeoffs and landings at a towered airport. It's a highly structured path, totally designed to build complete confidence in the cockpit. Now, as a private pilot, you cannot act as pilot in command, carrying passengers or property for hire. No way. But, and this is a really cool exception, you can equally split the operating expenses with your passengers under what's called the pro rata share rule. Think of it like splitting gas for a road trip. If a flight costs $100 in fuel, oil, and rental fees, and you have one passenger, you physically have to pay at least $50 of that. You can also fly for a business if it's strictly incidental, get reimbursed for charity or search and rescue operations, act as an aircraft salesman if you've got over 200 hours, or, my favorite, even tow gliders. Stepping up to the commercial level at age 18 requires a massive jump in experience. We're talking 250 total flight hours. This includes 100 hours in powered aircraft and 100 hours acting as pilot in command. The dual instruction requires 20 hours, but here's the kicker. 10 of those hours must be in complex airplanes. That means aircraft with retractable landing gear, flaps, and a controllable pitch propeller. Plus another 10 hours of basic attitude instrument training. Your 10 hours of solo flight also steps way up, featuring a massive 300 nautical mile cross-country flight and 5 hours of night flying. It's a serious test of endurance. However, there is a pretty major catch here. Even with a freshly minted commercial certificate, if you haven't yet earned your instrument rating, the FAA steps in with a very strict limitation. You are straight up prohibited from carrying passengers for hire on cross-country flights longer than 50 nautical miles, and you are entirely prohibited from doing so at night. It's an absolutely vital safety buffer. Carrying paying passengers over long distances or in the dark without the proven ability to fly strictly by instruments is a risk the FAA simply will not let you take. Moving right along to Section 2, Fit to Fly, Aviation Medical Certificates. Okay, so your aviation medical certificates come in 3 different classes. And basically, your age and the exact type of flying you do dictates how long they're valid. For an airline transport pilot requiring a first-class medical, it's valid for 12 calendar months if you're under age 40. But that drops to just 6 months at age 40 and older, just due to natural physiological changes. A second-class medical, which is needed for commercial pilots and air traffic control, is valid for 12 months, regardless. And finally, the third-class medical, which is the one most private and student pilots hold, gives you a lot more runway. Under 40, it's good for 60 calendar months, but at 40 and over, it reduces to 24 months. Section 3, Staying Legal. Let's talk about recent flight experience. Look, having a certificate and a medical is fantastic, but to keep your passengers genuinely safe, you've got to maintain currency. So the absolutely crucial number to burn into your brain right now is 90.
You cannot act as pilot in command carrying passengers unless you've completed 3 takeoffs and 3 landings in the preceding 90 days. And it has to be in an aircraft of the exact same category, class, and type. So, for example, an airplane, single-engine land, Cessna 172. The FAA wants to ensure your physical muscle memory is razor-sharp in the exact equipment you're planning to fly.
Now pay really close attention to this subtle, but totally critical, difference between day and night currency. For daytime flying, those 3 takeoffs and landings can just be quick touch and goes. But to carry passengers at night, which the FAA defines for currency as 1 hour after sunset to 1 hour before sunrise, those 3 landings must be made to a full stop. Think about it. Landing an aircraft at night totally removes your visual horizon and messes with your depth perception. So you have to prove you can bring that aircraft to a complete controlled halt before they'll trust you with passengers in the dark. Oh, and by the way, tailwheel aircraft always require full stop landings, even during the daytime. Plus, to act as pilot in command at all, even if you're just flying solo, you must complete a flight review every 24 calendar months. Now don't panic, this isn't a pass or fail test. It's really just a mandatory proficiency check with an authorized instructor. It consists of a minimum of 1 hour of ground school, where you'll review Part 91 rules, and at least 1 hour of flight training. You'll go over the maneuvers necessary to demonstrate you can still safely exercise your privileges. Once you're done, your instructor will happily endorse your logbook.
And finally, Section 4, documenting the journey, mastering the pilot logbook. Your logbook is literally your lifelong professional resume in aviation. The golden rule here is, if it's not in the logbook, it didn't happen. The FAA requires very specific details under Part 61.51 to actually prove you meet the requirements for new ratings or recent experience. Every single required entry has to include the date, the total flight and lesson time, or departure and arrival locations, the aircraft type and ID, and the flight conditions, meaning day, night, actual, or simulated instrument. And hey, if you flew with a safety pilot, their name absolutely has to go in there too. Okay, so understanding exactly how to log your time can actually get kind of tricky. To legally log pilot in command, or PIC time, you generally must be the sole manipulator of the controls. Simply put, your hands are the ones physically flying the airplane. If you are a private or commercial pilot, you get to log PIC time when you're the sole manipulator of an aircraft you're rated for, when you are the only occupant in the plane, or when acting as PIC on an aircraft that is specifically certificated for more than one pilot. So, what about second in command and instrument time? Well, you can only log second in command, or SIC time, if the aircraft specifically requires more than one pilot by its type certificate or operating regulations. You can't just hop in the right seat of a standard Cessna 172 and call yourself SIC. As for instrument time, you only legally log that when you are operating the aircraft solely by reference to your instruments. That means you're either actually flying in the clouds or you're wearing a view-limiting device in simulated conditions. Finally, any flight time you want to count as training toward a new certificate, well, it's got to be meticulously documented. It must be delivered by an authorized instructor, and the entry has to be endorsed by them. And trust me, instructors are highly protective of their signatures. A legal training entry has to include a detailed description of the lesson, the length of it, the instructor's signature, their FAA certificate number, and their certificate's expiration date. Without all of that information, the FAA will simply not count those hours towards your next milestone. Now that you understand the rigorous rules of the sky, from navigating those complex medical classes to the precise hour requirements of your certificates, you possess the true blueprint to advance your aviation journey. You know, the rules are strict because the sky demands absolute excellence, but mastering them, it's incredibly rewarding. So the only thing left for us to ask is, what will your next logbook entry be? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the skies.